I've done over 125 triathlons, and I've never peed in my wetsuit. Apparently,
Liar.
people think that's a rarity. But a lot of people intentionally pee in their wetsuits to keep themselves warm.
Yeah, I went 10 years before I decided to go ahead and pee in my wetsuit, and it's liberating. Another tip, only do number 1 in your wetsuit. Number 2 does nothing for you. And this is only for the blooper reel.
And good afternoon. Happy Memorial Day, everyone. Tri 312 crew. We are here at Cafe Oliva. We are here at Cafe Oliva, and on this sometimes sunny, mostly cloudy, overcast day, but it's beautiful here regardless. Having a great time with a lot of our athletes here who did a little open water swimming today. Coach Joy, how did that go today?
It was cold. I mean, I'm just going to be quite honest. It was cold. I had on a sleeveless wetsuit, but that's okay. I got in. I did the thing. I still know how to swim in open water.
That's great. And Coach Chris, how did the rest of our athletes do today? How was the coaching out there?
It was very good. I was actually very impressed. We had a couple athletes who got in the water in open water for their very first time, and in cold water, like out here for the very first time. And they did great. They swam several hundred yards, looked comfortable. So I was very impressed. And even though it was cold, it wasn't that cold. It was actually the warmest it's been for this time of year. I measured it in several different locations. It was between 61.5 and 62.1, so about 62 degrees, which is a good 2 to 3 degrees warmer than what it normally is this time of year.
Actually, more than that. It's usually in the high 50s. So for it to be this warm this early is a miracle, even though some of us were probably having ice cream freezer brain.
All right, so that should bode well for the rest of us getting ready to go out for our first open water swims. In fact, there is a open water swim clinic still scheduled for tomorrow afternoon right here at Ohio Street Beach. Now, the weather does not look great for it tomorrow, so it'll be TBD. But Coach Joy, Coach Chris, any thoughts on and expectations for the open water swim clinic for tomorrow?
Usually the first clinic is the smallest clinic of all the 4. I encourage you, if you have not registered, please register for 1, 2, 3, or all 4 clinics. We also have clinics on Saturdays this year, which is new. Well, not new. They had it last year also. But just come in, get out. Even if it doesn't go right the first time, you have multiple opportunities to try.
Yeah, if you're getting in the open water swim clinics this time of year, you're ahead of the curve, and that's always better for building confidence. You're not cramming your training later on. But yeah, sign up early, because I think the first 2 clinics are both over 90% sold out. So don't wait until the last minute. Register for these things early. The rest of them will probably sell out a lot sooner than they normally have. And, they really are a good opportunity to get out there. You learn open water swim skills, besides just getting acclimated to the environment. So you get a lot of really good tips from a lot of the best coaches in Chicago are at these clinics, volunteering and helping to coach them. But then you get to practice also around other people. So if you're nervous about open water and you're nervous about swimming around other people, there's no better place really to learn how to get used to these open water swim conditions. So do the first ones for, clinics and skills, and then start building your endurance. And then by the last one, they have the competitive swim or the competitive aquathlon. You can do a full swim and run event that is timed, and that really gives you an idea of how you'll do for race day. So everyone should plan to do that by the last clinic, which is in August. Use that as your final opportunity to really get race ready.
But also, if you're worried about you don't have a wetsuit, you can rent a wetsuit here at the Open Water Swim Clinic. First come, first serve. But again, if you have not registered, go to owschicago.org to sign up.
.com.
Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Great information, great updates, and great information for those that are new to open water swimming that may not know what to expect when they get down here and get to the clinic for the first time. But it should be a great venue, assuming the weather cooperates. If the weather does not cooperate, what should they expect? Should they expect to hear something from the clinic organizers about whether or not it is a go or no-go?
They'll send out an email, so they'll usually post what time of day they expect to make an update. Depending on the weather, it might be a lot earlier in the day if they know it's going to be bad. But usually, sometimes you can't predict it. So it might be an hour or so before the clinics. But there's a nice place you can go for cover. So they'll adapt and figure out what to do, just like a race day. Normally, the general policy for open water swim events and triathlons in general is if there is lightning in the area, they will postpone 30 minutes. And then as long as there was no lightning within that 30 minutes, then it's good to go. Or they'll just keep postponing it. So it might be something where like, hey, the first 2 clinics happen, the last one doesn't, or vice versa. If the storm's coming through early, they might have to postpone the first clinic, but then they'll do the last 2. So usually at least 1 or 2 of the clinics will take place because this time of year, most storms pass through pretty quick.
Okay, great. And speaking of race day, we do have a first big race coming up this season, which will be this Sunday, which is Leon's Triathlon. So a lot of different variety of athletes, first-timers, veterans, actual veterans, para-athletes, you name it, will all be out there. And Tri312 will also be out there this weekend. Hopefully you will find me with this lovely little mic here so that we look official. And if you are a participant and you would like to tell us your story about your experience, if you're a first-timer, if you're a veteran of doing Leon's Triathlon, just a veteran of triathlon in general, and want to tell us your story about your experience, what you're expecting for that race that day, or how your experience was afterwards, or what the rest of your season might entail. Or if you are a volunteer, if you are someone there to support your athletes, it would be great to hear your story as well. So I will be out there flying solo this weekend. My counterparts are going to be busy off doing other events and other amazing things this weekend. But find us, find our banner. I'm sure Leon, who will be there, will be gracious enough to escort you over to help provide some quality content for us on the weekend. So any other thoughts or advice for our athletes coming up this weekend for the Leon's Triathlon?
Number 1, just have fun. Have fun, enjoy the atmosphere, enjoy being around other athletes. This is actually basically our kickoff to triathlon season here in the Midwest. So enjoy it, embrace it, and that's it.
Yeah, have fun. Like the most important thing, especially early season races, a lot of people are not ready for that open water swim. So when the horn goes off, so to speak, or when you're getting in the water and starting, there's no rule that says you have to go at like a really hard race pace effort. Let the fast people go, and you can float in the water. You can just literally float on your back. Let the chaos kind of go ahead up the way, and then just take your time. Swim on your own pace. Have fun. Try to smile along the way.
Yes.
Fantastic advice. Chris is going to go interview some amazing athletes that we have here in our cabana, and we're going to find out some interesting things and see and find out a little bit more about our athletes, hear their stories, and hopefully just enjoy the rest of this wonderful Memorial Day. So for me, Coach Brian, Coach Joy, Coach Chris, we're going to see you in a little bit, and hopefully see you at these coming races and clinics real soon.
Hello, it's Coach Joy here. We're here at Cafe Oliva. We just did our open water swim here on lovely Memorial Day. And we got some first-timer tips for your first triathlon. Coach Jillian, who is owner of BFF Bikes, what is your tip for a first-time triathlete?
My first tip is just to get into the water like we did today. Whether or not you swam a yard or just stood there with your wetsuit on, doesn't really matter. Just get in the water and practice that. Because I think for most of us who don't swim, that's probably the hardest thing. At least it is for me.
Okay. Next, Sally, do you have advice for a first-time triathlete What would you like to know if when you first started? What would have helped you?
I think sometimes you just need to take a moment and breathe, not get caught up in your head. Remember that you're doing this for fun, and that sometimes if you just take that breath and remember that, you're going to have a good day.
All right. Bring it down.
Okay, Christine. Hi, I'm Christine, and I love triathlon, and I would say just remember to have fun. I think that was the best advice I would give.
All right. And there you have it. 3 veterans giving us advice for your first triathlon. Take their advice. They know we've been there. So back to you, Brian.
All right, this is Coach Chris. I'm here with my beautiful wife, Shelly, at the first official swim at Ohio Street Beach of the 2024 season. And we want to talk about a good tip for first-time swimmers, first-time open water swimmers. What should they do? What's a good tip for a first-time swimmer that might have come to play today?
I think one tip would be, if you already know the water is going to be potentially cold, to bring warm water to pre-fill your wetsuit before you get in the water.
Yeah, so a lot of people don't realize that a wetsuit is designed to get wet.
Oh, yeah.
You need to get water inside the suit for it to work properly. You're not trying to keep water out. So you want to get water in the suit first, let your body temperature warm that water up, and then that'll make you a lot more comfortable. And so what we actually had a couple people do today is go in the water, fill up their wetsuits, and then actually get back out of the water, warm that body temperature and that water inside the suit up, and then get back in. You've lowered your skin temperature, and you've warmed up inside of your wetsuit. And so that's a great way to stay warm and learn how to just kind of take advantage of the wetsuit. Yep. Awesome. So I'm here with one of the most experienced swimmers, an experienced open water swim supporters, one of the best athletic supporters you can find, Fred Critch. He's usually at the Chicago Tri on the stand-up paddleboard, providing water support, cheering people on, supporting people who are having issues. And we want to talk about what are some good tips for first-time swimmers coming out in open water. And you have a good one about keeping the wetsuit warm.
Yeah, if you're worried about being cold in your wetsuit, always pee in your wetsuit. It warms you up all over inside. It's great. You can feel the warmth spreading upwards as soon as you do. It's awesome.
So this is a good question for people out there. I'm curious to know what percentage of people have peed in their wetsuit and what percentage have not. I've done over 125 triathlons and I've never peed in my wetsuit. Apparently, people think that's a rarity. But a lot of people intentionally pee in their wetsuits to keep themselves warm.
Yeah, I went 10 years before I decided to go ahead and pee in my wetsuit, and it's liberating.
I like to pre-fill my water with regular water first, and that way I can warm the wetsuit up. That also helps to avoid me wanting to feel like I need to pee. If I pre-fill the wetsuit and I get warm, usually if I stay warm, I don't have to pee as much.
Another tip, only do number 1 in your wetsuit. Number 2 does nothing for you. It makes transition uncomfortable.
Well, there you go. Some of the best tips in triathlon, straight from the most experienced swimmers you'll find at Ohio Street Beach.
And this is only for the blooper reel, right?